What's up everyone, my name is Mark Hawk, and today we're doing a quick look / review of the Xiaomi Yi. We're going to be pretty thorough as we can be here. The first part's going to go over a lot of the hardware and stuff like that. Second part's going to go over the video footage. We're going to compare it to the GoPro Hero that came out in 2014. That's the sort of more basic $130 model. We're also going to put it up against the GoPro Hero 4 Silver Edition just to see where it stacks up in between those two. Now, if you're looking to pick up this camera and you want to shave a little bit of that price off, the already cheap price, check out gearbest.com. There's a discount code in the more information section below this video, or you can skip to the end of the video if you want to see a sort of walkthrough on how to do it. Anyway, let's get to reviewing this sleek little camera. The Yi Action Camera, the manufacturer's official name for the Action Cam, has made quite the wave since it was first unveiled a few weeks ago. Already it's starting to gather a passionate following for its highly above normal specs and features, which is only amplified by the company's decision to price it at roughly $65. The reason for the low price? Xiaomi wishes to make up a lot of the cost and development of manufacturing each camera by gathering more followers into their ecosystem. Buy a Xiaomi camera, maybe you'll want a Xiaomi phone or a sleek colorful TV to watch the footage on. Xiaomi plans are to be focused more on mass appeal and having devices that complement the other ones to make the overall family seem more appealing. The chances of any of this crossing over outside of China, however, are kind of slim. Going for mass appeal seems to be much harder when there's already so many established manufacturers in the United States, such as Apple and GoPro. It's one of the first things I consider before picking up a Yi Action camera outside of China. The support may be limited, and the timetable for firmware upgrades and turnarounds might not be what you hope. However, only time will tell if Xiaomi actually caters to the international marketplace. So what is it about the Yi Action camera that's so appealing to an international marketplace? Hardware-wise, the camera sports some impressive tech, and not just for its price. We're talking about real impactful pieces of hardware here that have been proven by other manufacturers such as Sony and GoPro. It packs the Sony Exmor-R IMX206 CMOS sensor, which has seen some great results in the past from other camera manufacturers at a much higher price. On top of that, it's sporting 16 megapixels for its still photography, and controlling both of those pieces of hardware is the Umbrella A7LS processor. This processor is capable of doing resolutions 1080p to 60 frames a second, and the added speed boost will help transfer videos and photos via Wi-Fi to your smartphone app. And all of this is packed in a sleek white or lime green colorful body that's very reminiscent of the GoPro Hero series of camera without a case. Now there is an aftermarket case that is available for roughly $20 to $25. There's a few LEDs spread throughout it. There's 3 buttons. You have a shutter, power, and Wi-Fi button. There's a micro USB port. There's a tight-fitting micro SD slot that accepts cards up to 128 gigs. You have a battery compartment, microphone and speaker holes. So because of some minor differences, such as the lens placement, this is surprisingly incompatible with a lot, if not most, GoPro accessories and mounts. So you'd be forced to search for first and third-party accessories for the Yi Action camera. Luckily, the camera does come with a standard female tripod mount on the bottom, so you could buy a GoPro mount converter such as a Rec mount or a Polar Pro mount nowadays to be compatible with the standard 3-prong GoPro system. When it comes to filming on the Yi Action camera, it actually sports a lot of neat options, including some really smart ones. The camera offers the ability to connect to a smartphone app on both Android and iOS. However, none of these apps at the time are natively in English, but there are a few third-party options out there you can download to get up and going, one of which we've actually already done a video about. Now, this is crucial though to any English-only user because you can't change the setting on the Yi without the app. Without the app, you're limited to only shooting in the default settings applied for video and photo. This is because there's no screen or any watch-style LCD indicator on the device. In fact, there isn't a ton in terms of indicators to let you know what's really going on with the camera at any given time, and what is there could be done a little better. First power the camera on will take about a second or two to power up, and you'll get a solid red light on the top to let you know it's ready to take a still photo. When you're ready to take a video and you switch into video mode, that red light will start flashing. Both of these indicators though are very hard to see in direct sunlight. Often the natural sunlight might make you misread it as being solid or blinky. You're in one mode when you're really in the other, and that's because it's really hard to read in natural light. On the front of the camera you have a ring light that lets you know the 3 stages of the battery level. This ring light is very clear during the day, and I kind of wish it was used some way to identify which mode you were in. Now when the light is blue, your battery is above 70%, when it's purple, you're above 35%, and when it's red, you're below 35%. Now, you're probably going to have to get used to seeing that red ring light indicator. While it wasn't everyone's experience that I spoke with, I did find trouble in trying to get the Yi Action camera's battery to hold its charge. So we charged our battery up to about 100% and I let it sit for roughly 12 to 14 hours without it being used whatsoever. And after those 12 to 15 hours, I connected it to the app, and the battery life had fallen somewhere in between like 30 to 35%, and this was constantly happening. Luckily though, if you find yourself in a similar situation and you need to use the Yi and have a universal battery charger on you, you're in luck. You can actually use the Yi Action Camera while it's being powered by an external power source such as a Jackery or a Fat Bat. However, it won't charge the device while the camera's in use, but once the camera's off, you can plug that in and it'll start charging it. And again, if you need to use it while you're filming, you can do that too. Filming with the Yi in many ways is an easy and incredible experience. The Yi's default 1080p 30 frames per second setup offers a rich and bright experience and is fairly sharp and clean. The camera offers a lot of options from resolutions, frame rates, exposures, lens distortion. The camera offers a ton of lens distortion options including 1080p at 60 frames a second, 48 frames a second, 30, 24, as well as some higher frame rates at 120 frames per second at 720p or even 240 frames per second at 480p, though the quality starts to dip in those higher frame rates, but we'll go into that in a little bit. There's also the option to set it at 960p, a more 4:3 aspect ratio, so if you want a little more top and bottom space, and if you want more of the PAL standards, you can actually switch it off of NTSC and into the more PAL standard frame rates. Now, lens rectification has to be one of the standout features on the Yi to me. It's one of the few features that Xiaomi can point to and say, we were the first to bring that to market. While the Yi doesn't have any field of view options, lens rectification actually allows you to remove lens distortion that's usually standard when filming with wide-angle lenses. So what it does is it reverses the lens distortion, that way a lot of the curvature that you see in the lens actually straightens out and removes a lot of the distortion we'll get towards the sides of the image. And the great thing about this is normally we would have to do this in post-production and we could use usually the GoPro software for free, or we can use some other software like Premiere or After Effects or something like that, but this cuts down on post-production work and it actually appeals to a big market that doesn't want to see any of that sort of wide-angle lens distortion. Now, in the process of doing this, the plate will actually scale up a little bit to compensate for the edges being straightened out, and any areas further away from the center of the frame may begin to get a little soft. Cost of the camera aside, image quality of the Yi is fairly good. It offers a level of detail and clarity. Its color grade is somewhere on the neutral side with a hint of a warm tint that really stands out in sunsets and low light conditions. The camera also appears to be adding a soft touch-up on grain. Our interior footage appeared to be fairly smooth but a little soft, often a result of degrading the plate a little bit. Now, in daylight conditions, the level of clarity in this price range is higher if not top-notch. Filming during the day with a clear blue sky didn't show any sort of major issues such as clamping or crushing of the white and the black values. Nighttime conditions aren't ever an ideal choice for action cameras with such a small image sensor, but thanks to the camera's built-in degrading software that we mentioned, our footage at least remains static-free in low light conditions. Many aspects of the Yi Action Camera are actually modeled off the international success of the GoPro Action Camera series. When comparing this camera to the series, there are a few routes I could have taken, but I chose to put the camera up against the $130 GoPro Hero that came out in late 2014. I refer to it as the GoPro Hero Basic model. And then there's the $400 GoPro Hero Silver that was also released in late 2014. Now, there are a lot of other cameras we can compare this to, maybe some that stack up against it a little better, maybe previous year models, but I want to start with something that had a good base that most retailers have in stock and on shelves right now. Naturally, the Hero Basic is the more level match for the Yi Action Camera. It has a similar price as the Yi, but it kind of breaks the chain of comparison because its hardware is so much better even though it's in the same price range. But I wanted to see how close that higher level of hardware was compared to something like the GoPro Hero Silver 4, which I found to be the more consumer-friendly version of the GoPros that are out this year that people are buying. In our first side-by-side tests with the GoPro Hero Basic, the Yi holds up fairly well. I found the Yi often came out ahead with the overall video quality. During the day, the GoPro often felt kind of muted and dull, as if the white values were kind of messed up. And while the color profile could be fairly subjective, the way the Yi Action Camera handled the lighting was much more appealing and kind of correct to the reality. Best way to put it. The Yi footage itself showed to have a lot more detail and had more clarity in the overall presentation. Too often, the GoPro Hero Basic footage felt muddy and grungy in comparison. Higher and bigger levels of grain would creep in and just make for an overall disappointing image when compared to the Yi. There were instances though where I felt the sharpness in the Hero Basic was better set up and had a better focal distance set up. This might have had a bit to do with the Yi's degrained softness, or that the setup for things seems to be that the Yi's better at a distance as opposed to up close, and the GoPro Hero Basic is a little better with handling things up close as to oppose things in the distance. When we put the Yi up against the $400 GoPro Hero 4 Silver, the clarity and sharpness doesn't really hold up to what the Hero Silver 4 is capable of. It's pushing out 50 megabits second footage with the ProTune enabled, and that's with all of the standard GoPro color grades and stuff like that. We're actually keeping all of that sharpness and detail we would if we didn't have ProTune turned on. The Hero 4 Silver picture is it's just really appealing. It has a really good focal distance setup. Everything that's sort of in frame has a really good sharpness to it, a crispness. Really introduces a lot of clarity to the image. It also does this without introducing a lot of grain back into the picture during the day or in low light scenarios. Similar to the Yi, both cameras share a more natural color palette with a slight hint of warmth and brightness to give it that extra pop and eye appeal. The Hero Basic just often relied on warmer color tones and crunching the black and white levels. The Hero 4 Silver sometimes crunches those levels a little too much, which can result in some weird clipping issues and big pockets of ramping colors in the background. The Yi never had this problem. In fact, it's one of the few cameras lately that doesn't have this problem with the ramping colors in the sky caused by kind of crunching your white and black levels too much. At the same time, you can also argue that some of the footage might look washed out, but the end user can still crunch those levels if they really wanted to. While the Yi's quality holds up quite a bit against the GoPro Hero Silver 4 at 1080p 30 frames a second, and maybe even exceeds it a little bit at night, increasing the frame rate to 60 frames a second can result in a big notable dip in quality. With locked off shots, areas without a lot of detail, 60 frames a second can actually remain solid and look good, but things such as sort of rolling waves, things that introduce a lot of moving foliage or small objects, it starts to create a lot of muddiness and edge issues. Ramping up the frame rate to 120 frames a second will come at the expense of losing audio as well. You'll have to drop it down to 720p. While it's nice to have the option to film at 120 frames a second and even 240 frames a second, I feel like these were thrown in to be check marks on the box. The quality here is pretty poor, especially when compared to the quality you get out of 1080p 30 frames a second. However, the camera achieving 120 frames per second and 240 frames a second, it just doesn't feel polished. It feels like it was just kind of thrown in there. The audio on the Yi sounds very muffled. It's nothing spectacular and often sounds kind of muted, as if it was recorded in some type of vacuum. While recording on the roof of my car for an auto low-light test, which works well enough, the audio would make loud popping sounds out of nowhere, almost as if the audio was clipping every few seconds, and it only seemed to happen when the wind was blowing directly into the microphone. I never got it from just doing casual talking or having casual wind blow into it, just when high force winds were kind of hitting the front of it. But when I say high force, I mean maybe going like 15-25 miles per hour on a car. Anyway, here's a quick audio example between these three cameras, and I think the results will speak for themselves fairly fast. The 16 megapixel sensor allows the Yi to take some pretty nice photos, but they just don't seem to have that wow factor I got out of comparing the video to the GoPros. But it's nothing to scoff at. They're pretty decent photos, and if you weren't comparing them side by side, I doubt you'd have any issues with them. The Yi also has some nice photo burst options, but again, you'll need to access the Smart app in order to enable that feature, and again, go back into the Smart app to turn them off. So again, it's using the Wi-Fi a lot, which can drain the battery. Now, when we did some tests at 1080p 30 frames a second and just recorded it straight footage, we got 54 minutes out of a fully charged battery. And you also have some photo resolution options in there if you want. So if you want to drop it down to 5 megapixels to save on space, you're more than welcome to. But again, this camera supports up to 128 gig cards, and I think officially it supports up to 64, but you can put 128 in there. For a fairly small amount, most retailers will allow you to upgrade to a bundle that comes with the Xiaomi Selfie Pole. The pole collapses and retracts based off of a twist-unlock pole design system. It works fairly how you expect. It locks up every now and then, but with a little brute force, you can always get it into position. The one nice touch is how soft and comfy the handle is, and I mean, it is kind of surprisingly like a really nice feel. It offers a little bit of grip, and it has this material that's kind of perfect for like warm, muggy days, so it doesn't feel sticky in your hand, and it's a nice little touch. Get it? Touch. Ah! Anyway, guys, that wraps up our review of the Xiaomi Yi Action Camera. It's a really cool camera at a really neat price, but again, there are some concerns with it being a Chinese manufacturer. But if you want to jump in and get this camera at a slightly lesser price, which will make you, I don't know, more inclined to try it out, you can actually go to gearbest.com and you can use the offer code that's in the more information section below or showing on screen right now. You can trust these guys. It's who Engadget gets some of their gear through. I've gotten several pieces of gear through them, both things I've purchased and things they've sent me, so totally reliable. But let me know in the comment section what your experience with them is, and just so you can let other viewers know that things are still going good there. Anyway, everyone, if you stuck around this long, thanks for checking it out. Be sure to check out my other videos listed here on the left. We got a bunch of other action camera coming along. Also, if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscriber button or share and like this video, because your exposure helps me out more than anything. And you're feeling super generous, hit me up on my Patreon page like one other viewer has. All of ActionCam is run out of pocket, so anything you can throw my way, super helpful and appreciated. Anyway guys, I'm ActionCam. I'll see you all out there. It's going to be an awesome summer, so let's get out there.